I knew I needed to go deeper, but I didn't know what that meant. So that's when I ran into the Akashic Record. I shouldn't say ran into. I took a break. I hit a wall. I struggled. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought maybe I would get another job. And somebody introduced me to an Akashic Record reading. I just went on a whim, and I just had another one of those Plato moments. It was like every part of me was like, oh my God, what is this? I know I need to discover more of it. And I became like obsessed. I mean, truly obsessed. And then your question back to fears, I mean, yeah, the entire time. It was like having a conflict. What is this? And then what does this have to do with the philosophy I've learned, or like my beliefs about who we are, why we're here, the purpose of life, collective purpose? I mean, it's been a breaking down and a breaking open journey.
Laura Coe, welcome to Fear Unzipped. I'm super excited because you're my first Akashic Records person, and it's something that I am so enthralled with. So we're going to talk everything Akashic, and you're going to guide us into what it is and how we can get there. I'm really excited. I want people to know a little bit about you. You're an author, a coach, and obviously an Akashic Records reader. And I think you studied philosophy at Brandeis and Tufts, which is like a beautiful combination of everything. I love that. You're the author of Emotional Obesity, like this, a philosophical guide to lighten your life. We all need that. We all need that. And the Nature series, Nature of Love, Nature of Self-Love, and Nature of Boundaries. I like anything that has nature in the title. So you had me at nature. You are the founder of the Little Soul School, where people can learn how to access the Akashic Records. I have to tell you this, Laura, I love your website. I go to that Akashic, so I've seen it for a couple of years, and I just love the whimsy of it. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful website. So it very much attracted me. So the way I like to start is to ask my guests their backstory before you got into all this. What were you doing? Did you have some fears kind of jumping from what you were doing into this? And if you can just share that with us, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm 54, so it's a longer story. Yeah, I have my life has been a little bit of a windy road, all leading towards, I think, one destiny point. But yeah, in high school, I was one of those kids that was just kind of messing around and not very serious about school, to say the least. And I don't know, I was getting bad grades, partying like crazy, having fun, not gonna lie. But I was introduced to Plato in a random English class, and I was raised kind of atheist, urban kid, grew up in the south side of Chicago, and I'm sitting in this English class, and Plato, the symposium is being, taught, and I got full body goosebumps, right? So here I am, like 16, and like I don't care about school, but I'm having this experience, which I would honor those experiences, even though I didn't know what they were. I wasn't exposed to ideas like spirituality and that guidance was coming and goosebumps and things. But I did listen, and I went on to college and graduate school and was obsessed. I mean, philosophy was it for me. This is all I thought about. It was like everything that my mind naturally did. There was this study that I was like, oh my God, yes, yes, like I'd read it and I'd go, oh yeah, right. Like that's what I'm trying to say. They just said it better, right? So I don't know. I got into this great graduate school program. I was super happy. I was like, this is it. But I hated academia, like with this deep passion. The idea that these beautiful schools of thought were going to be papers between me and another academic person just arguing about logic and nuance, and it just shut me down completely, right? So here I am, like 24 years old. I thought I had my life plan, and then I'm like, oh, got nothing. So back to the drawing board, and I came back through Chicago, and my brother and father were starting a healthcare tech company. I don't know. I have no interest in business, less interest in healthcare. And there I was standing in this lab space. My dad's old school, and he's like, "You're not hanging out in my house without doing something." So I started being an entrepreneur, and I was good at it. I was really good at innovating, creating, getting things done. I liked my brother. We're best friends. So there I was. And I thought to myself, well, I'll do this for a while and I'll get back to my passion. I was 24. So roll forward, we sell the company. I'm an executive at a Fortune 500. I no longer can connect to the deeper parts of myself. I'd been doing something that I was good at, but not passionate about for so long that I just disconnected from my body, right? From my deeper self, to deal with it, really. I had a young kid. I was stressed out all the time. The work hours were insane. And I just hit that wall. And I hit it because I found yoga. I was super stressed out and I was like, I need to deal with this stress. And I took a yoga class and it blew my mind. It was back to that feeling I had with philosophy where I was like, whoa, what was that? Like, I need this, right? I was in this class sweating and dripping and like terrible and I'm not flexible, but it was just like this, oh my God, this is what my soul is calling for. I wouldn't have said that back then either, but so I started doing yoga and meditation, and I think it brought me back into my body, my awareness, myself, and I knew I needed to leave. I mean, it was just a no-brainer, but I had nowhere to go. I had no plan. I just had this one thing. I needed to be authentic. I do. My life comes in these very simple truths. So I left, did a few things, almost opened a yoga studio, almost became the head of integrated healthcare for Northwestern. But I had this like rule, if it doesn't feel authentic, I'm not doing it. And so I wouldn't. And that led me down this path of getting back to the philosophy that I love. I mean, the internet was born and you could now do things online and I did that. So I created I wrote my first book, Emotional Obesity, Removing the Layers to the Authentic Truth. I started a podcast about what is authenticity anyways? What does it mean to be authentic in one's life? And I really loved what I was doing. I had blogs going out. Your question about fear, I mean, yeah, every step of the way was uncomfortable because I was retraining because I think I had it young, but how to listen to what's true within me and override fear or even know maybe it's not true. What's the difference between fears, but learned beliefs about what is true about what I love versus what is really true? What if I have competing truths? What if I like it, but I don't like other parts? I just had lost my ability to navigate the internal compass, take action from there and not let the mind, approvals, whatever is on your mind, right? Like get in the way of that. So that whole time was really a lot of retraining of myself and sharing it. And thankfully, a lot of people enjoyed what I was learning in my own experience. And I love sharing. So I was coaching and doing the podcast. And then I hit another wall. I was like, oh, I can't keep talking about authenticity this way. It's not authentic anymore. I'd done it so long. Yeah. And I knew I needed to go deeper, but I didn't know what that meant. So that's when I ran into the Akashic Record. I shouldn't say ran into. I took a break. I hit a wall. I struggled. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought maybe I would get another job. And somebody introduced me to an Akashic Record reading. I just went on a whim and I just like had another one of those Play-Doh moments. It was like every part of me was like, oh my God, what is this? I know I need to discover more of it. And I became like obsessed. I mean, truly obsessed. And then your question back to fears, I mean, yeah, the entire time. It was like, having a conflict, like, what is this? And then what does this have to do with like the philosophy I've learned or like my beliefs about who we are, why we're here, the purpose of life, collective purpose? I mean, it's been a breaking down and a breaking open journey.
I I had chills through everything you were saying. I could relate to so much of the experience. Authenticity is something that I think we're cracking open now as the world is cracking open energetically. I think authenticity is coming to the forefront. I think we don't feel comfortable if we're not being authentic right now. You can really feel when you're not being authentic. I'm curious what your father thought of and your brother and your family thought of when you said, I think I'm going to start reading the Akashic Record.
Oh, I mean, I have a few things on that. I mean, I swear I'm going to write this article, but I think coming out as gay in the 90s was easier than coming out as spiritual. I think a lot of people struggle with this one, right? If you're not following a religion or science and you're something else, right? Like it's not a structured religion, but it's like an exploration, right? I think for some of us, we just like to explore anything and everything that feels true at different points in our life. And that leads to a deep insecurity, like that you're woo-woo or weird, or like what you're saying is just like unfounded in anything or uneducated, or like there's all sorts of baked in narratives, I think, in culture about that type of people, which is a lot of people. So yeah, my family, I mean, I'm Jewish and Ashkenazi Jewish is the thing. They would say the Ashkenazi records just to kind of poke at me a little bit. And I was like, man, you guys suck. And I mean, they truly were not so comfortable with it. And I think the thing that I thought about was, why am I so uncomfortable forgetting them? You know, like what is it within me that feels insecure about exploring why we're here in the way that I want to? Why does it have to be an agreed upon way to do it? And so the Akashic Record just gave me that opportunity to do it myself, experience it myself, and then have these mind-blowing experiences that were undeniably true, like that I could go back to my very, atheist, world famous physician father and say like, okay, let's go. I'm ready to start having these arguments because this isn't something you have to just trust in. Actually, there's actually tangible points of evidence.
I think at this point, it's really important that we explain to the listeners and viewers what the Akashic Record is. Is it,
Yeah.
Do you say Akashic Record or Akashic Records? Does it matter?
Well, you have a record, so there is the Akashic Record of you, and then there's the Akashic Records is
Of everyone.
the world. But the truth is, it's so the Akashic Record it's the energetic space that holds your soul's history. Everything you've ever done in all of your lifetime is stored in this place. So I think of it as a Google search for your soul, right? So imagine every thought, feeling, and action over every single lifetime is stored like a Google cloud. So, cloud computing, we know that, all of my data is stored somewhere. If I break my phone, get a new phone, it'll come down. So similarly, when Laura dies, everything I've done will be stored. When whoever the next version of my soul's embodiment becomes, it'll attach to that Google Drive, if that makes sense, the cloud. So that's what the Akashic Record is. And the truth is, it's actually Akasha, ether in Sanskrit, and it's for everything, sky. So the idea of an Akashic Record was something coined very recently in the last 100 years. Madame Blavatsky's community, the Theosophical Society, was deeply involved in it at the turn of the century, and they brought the term to America with meditation and yoga. And so it didn't gain the same popularity, but the idea of an Akashic Record, that literal term, was something that was introduced much more recently. So I think it gets in the way a little bit because it connotes this idea of like a single record or something, when really it's the space of everything. It's more like the, cloud computing.
When we have deja vu, is that tapping back into the Akashic record?
Everything is. So, right, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you're walking down the street and you have a sudden awareness, a moment of, oh, wait, it just came to me. Or everything I just said went to my record. And what I'm going to say is informed from everything I've ever said.
Wow.
And so it's everything. People say, what's the difference between that and mediumship? Well, Akasha is all sky, ether. So mediumship is one thing. It's an interaction with a single energy that's on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And that's wonderful. But this is opening up the space of all of it. And it's a very particular experience when you open up an Akashic record. Say I open up yours, you would ask me a question, and then I can answer it with this unbelievable level of description that is unique to you, right? So what does that mean exactly? There's like these sentences that you read and they open up an Akashic record, okay? I just swap one legal name for another. So you have a cell phone, you use the same cell phone to dial all your friends, yeah?
Yeah.
You just swap out the phone number. So I have these sentences and it opens up the Akashic record. You swap out the legal name and you open up one person's record or another. And then from there, it's like walking up to Google. You ask me a question if you were my client, and I start to answer from your guide. So on the other side, somehow in lightning speed, they parse through everything you've ever done in all your lifetimes. And they're like, what does Sandi need to know in this moment for her highest good to help her back on track with her soul plan? The theory is we all come here with a plan. We have on the other side, I don't know, I like to think of it in cutesy terms, but there's your soul is like writing a little plan. It's like a curriculum, what it wants to learn, how it wants to grow, heal, who it wants to do it with. And then you embody and you forget. And so it comes through these little knowings like, oh, I just need to move, or, oh, this is the person to marry, or, oh, I need to like not do this. But it's because it's been written. And when you're listening deep within, or you're receiving like little guidance moments, it's because your guides are pinging you. You're listening to your soul, your higher self's truth. And in a reading, you're just getting absolute direct, like, it's like a megaphone, right? Like it just gives you everything. So I sat down for my first reading. This woman opens up my records and I was telling some friends, I want to live in a modern minimalist apartment on the lake. I don't know why. She goes, I see a modern minimalist apartment on the lake. And I was like, wait, what? So it drops these facts about you. Say I'm reading somebody who's a tech person, and all of a sudden the metaphors are about solid state drive, right? Like they switch the metaphors that it's relatable to you. If you're a gardener, all the metaphors are gardening, right? And people will go, how do you know? How is that happening? Like, and your mind is just blown. And then what you receive, given all of your lifetimes, it's like, this is what Sandi needs to hear so that she can get back on track with that feeling of resonance within yourself, like that, oh my God, I was just reading this book or I listened to this podcast, that moment of, oh my God, that's what I needed to hear. You get an hour of that where it's just these drops of like, oh yeah, that's true. That's true for me. Like, how did you know that? And it's like spoken in your language too. So it's quite loving.
That's incredible. Well, I say this all the time, but with this podcast, something I never had a thought of doing, but the way it came in with such a knowing, with all the guidance, with all the right people. It was unbelievable. I mean, seriously, it was unbelievable. I call it magical. Yeah. It's all magic. I very much believe in magic. And the Akashic Records seems magical to me. If you were going to read me, what happens to you? I'd love to know where you go. Like, how can you do that? And I know we can all do it because you teach us how to do it. You can teach people how to do it. But what happens to you? If I ask you a question, I don't know what would be a great question. You don't have to answer it through the Akashic Record, but if I just ask you a question, what happens to you then?
Yeah. And when you say it's magical, it does feel really magical. And I'll answer your question about how it feels when you're in the records. But um, really, when you look at quantum particle theory, right, and everything is wavelengths, and the truth is, I don't have a hand here, right? It's just, it's really wave particles. So the Akashic is just this field of content. They've gone in the brain and they've looked at the cells, and nowhere in the brain do they find a cell that's got like Laura Coe's memory of her childhood or something. Like, where are all of our thoughts being stored? And I think we've been thinking all these years it's in our head, but I think it's stored like a cloud computing. And so I don't think it's as magical as science might prove it to be over a period of time, but it's quite magical feeling because we don't have the pure science yet for it.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty convinced that it's just a pretty scientific like process that we don't have vocabulary to articulate yet.
Yeah.
But the system is you read those sentences, and as soon as you do, everybody, I teach this class internationally for thousands of students, you feel some pressure at the top of your head, and it's this that's where the Akashic energy enters. And as you sit with that, the pressure builds, and you ask the question focusing on that part of your body. So say you ask me, what's my purpose? Or how come this podcast felt so soul aligned? Like, what does that mean? And then I'll start to receive information in the form of three things. Auditory, I'll get language. Kinesthetic, like in my body, I'll start to experience feelings that aren't mine in my own body. And then visuals, not visuals like crystal clear, more like dream state visuals. And you just start talking. You're like, okay, I see a body of water. I see a pond. I feel this relief. And the more you talk, the more information starts to come. The guides are just feeding it to you. So Laura gets really out of the way. It kind of feels like a dream state you black out 90% of. Like, when you wake up in the morning, you can't remember what you dreamt. It's like really similar to that. And the difference is, as you're speaking, there's these felt knowings, like, oh, that's true. So if I were to give you advice right now and you said, hey, Laura, tell me about my soul's purpose or why this podcast, like, I call it the best friend test. I do it in class, but just answer to the best of your ability. Use your intuition. Like, why do I think? And I just answer you, right? And I'll talk for a couple minutes, I think, because it's something that you might have chosen. And, right, like, I don't know, right? I'll say something and you'll go, okay. I'll go in your record and I'll share from there. And it will just be this mind-blowing truth for you, right? And at the same time, I'm experiencing it. I'm like, oh, the rock and the this and the that are all metaphoric for something. Oh, it's because you're finally speaking in your truth and you've been wanting your whole life to have a platform of truth, right? Something will come and it'll start to flow and I'll feel it deeply as truth. And that's what's fun. And it's a non-judgmental space. You can have heavier paths, you can have lighter paths, but you will never have a wrong path because you as a soul decided it. So it's fun. It's euphoric. People lose track of time. They never want to stop once they've started. And the information's loving. Sometimes course correcting and you're hearing something that's challenging, but it comes through in a way that's so dreamlike and non-judgmental that it's really easy to take in, if that makes sense.
Beauty is the non-judgmental. We all need that. So if I had a fear that I lived with that didn't make any sense, like let's say I had a fear of taking showers. It doesn't make any sense, but I don't like taking showers. Would the Akashic record be able to guide me through that where I could transmute that fear? So it's a way to transmute fears when you go into the record.
Yeah. It's, I think of like Reiki to massage to acupuncture, right? They all have things they do and then they don't do, and they're all beneficial in their own ways. So the Akashic realm, when I go in your record, you're also receiving that energy. So people will kind of like, their minds will quiet. They'll kind of drop into a bit of a sleepy state is typically their hearts open more, their minds check out. They can feel tired a little after in a good way. They have a lot of cathartic moments of relief, even cathartic tears, because it's like, oh, finally I'm hearing so much truth. And so that is very healing in of itself, right? It's like, I don't know how you feel, but when I'm really like stuck on something like that fear that you mentioned, or, you know, I do this for a living, right? I go and talk to people, not a problem. Getting on a stage was something I just didn't want to do. And I'm like, one day I was live streamed into a community, and this screen was the TV screen, and here's my head the size of an entire TV, and I didn't care. And I was like, what is this? So the Akashic guides were like, well, you did mysticism in a previous life, and back then on stages they would kill people. And I had made that connection in my body, but I didn't know logically what it was, right? Because I'm like, I'm not really afraid of public speaking, but I'm this like, I don't want to be on a stage since I was a little girl. So it's like that. And with that moment of knowing that, it was like something happened where it released, right? Like I just went, oh, because I was looking in all the wrong places to solve it. Like maybe I need to practice being on a stage or something. I'm like, that's not what it is. And I couldn't locate the issue. So absolutely, it's super healing with the information. The records themselves are more informative than they are clearing. You can learn how to do healings and clearings using the energy, but it is mostly informational. And it's kind of like the truth sets you free, you know?
Oh, it's fascinating. So what about if I were to explore my past lives, but went to a past life practitioner? It sounds like the Akashic record could always, if you were going to my Akashic record, we could also do that, right? Is it the same?
Yeah, sort of. So past life regressions go through past lives. The Akashic record for the question you're asking, you will get what your guides believe is the right information to help you on your path. So somebody will say, I just want to talk about past lives today. And I'll go in the records with the question and I hear childhood trauma. And the guides are like, mm-mm. Like they lead, you follow. You cannot get a reading to go in places that it's not meant to be. It's like this beautiful system of knowing you over all of those lifetimes. Like I think of it this way, like say I were to, you know, die tomorrow and the book of Laura Coe is now put on the other side. And there's a new version of me that's asking a question in relation to this lifetime. What really matters from this life, truly, for the thing that they're looking to resolve? Somebody has to be able to look over all of those lifetimes or your childhood or something else to say, at this moment in time, this is most helpful, if that makes sense. So sometimes you get to hear about a past life, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get your purpose, sometimes you don't. I mean, it's really up to the guides. You don't get a say in it.
So I think that's true with, because I read tarot, it's true. Somebody will come in and they're hoping that they're going to hear about the love of their life. But I'm picking up that they hate their job. And it's stopping, it's stopping flow. So I think if you go to a past life regressionist, you're wanting to know about something, you're always expecting something to come in, but it's what comes in is what's to serve you at this moment in time.
That's right.
So I think some people get disappointed because they're thinking, oh, this person, or even if you go to a medium, you're thinking this person's going to come in and talk to me, but you find out it's somebody completely different. There's some sense of beauty in that. It's because your highest good is going to tell you what you need at this moment of time to move forward. It's I said all of the metaphysical practices do that, and people can get frustrated.
Right. And this is where I get back to the authenticity, because what is the part of me that's frustrated in those moments? Because who is the one who's choosing for me and who's the me? Like we have this one word, right, for ourselves, I, me. But then there's all these versions of us, right? There's the mind that has a view. There's the heart. There's the soul. There's our guides, right? There's so many levels to the whole thing. And it's something I think about a lot. I mean, Laura Coe, the personality of this human being, and structurally how she might think about it, the mind of Laura versus the heart of Laura isn't the same as like my soul who's been through all of my lifetimes. And I don't really know exactly why my soul signed up to come in full detail as much as my soul knows. So yeah, I mean, it is extremely frustrating to the mind of Laura. Like she just wants less pain, more pleasure, relationships, purpose, like the answers, to not feel like the uncertainty is overwhelming, right? Like there's all these things as people, we just want like that ease, that comfort, that knowing, like, I mean, it's okay to have some faith, but gets uncomfortable at a certain point, right? And we want to know we're going to be okay and our loved ones are going to be okay. And like, we want to feel like we're going to be doing something that's meaningful, and helpful in the world typically. But our guides have a different idea of what is appropriate. And so who is the real me when I'm asking these questions? Am I in service to calming Laura's anxieties as a human, or am I listening because it's a soul modality? And these are soul modalities, right? So that's something that I've had to really work on, because then I got into this whole phase of, well, is Laura just a puppet? Or like, then I went through this whole thing of, well, really, who cares about Laura? And it's like, that's not true. So how do you live as a soul beautifully embodied is what I think about a lot now, right? Like, yes, this is what my soul did sign up for. But down here, like boots on the ground, Laura needs to feel good too. And her life isn't nothing. And these ideas of this is all one grand illusion and it doesn't matter, like I think are overstated, where it can be like spiritual bypassing, or it can start just feeling really awful to be spiritual.
So I know a lot of people that practice forms of metaphysics of various forms. They left. They were over it. They left. A lot of people recently, and some have gotten pretty strong into religion, which I find really a fascinating twist in the whole thing. But the hardest question that we can ask, that somebody asks you, is, who are you? Who am I? It is the hardest question to answer, because you wear lots and lots of different hats, but who are you down to the core of your being? So one of the greatest compliments that I give to people, or I've received from people, is, you have beautiful energy. To me, that is like the best compliment ever. And I do tell people that you do, Laura, have beautiful energy. Mm-hmm. And I do have a tendency to bring people on here that have gorgeous energy. Because it's what I feel. But because the energy I'm getting chills from your Akashic record. It's the embodiment of everything, every person you were through the beginning of time. You know, it's very contemplative. It's very philosophical, and it can get your mind twisted, because who am I? What is my purpose? Those are the biggest questions. What I find that appeases me is when I feel those moments, and you're going to understand this, those moments of like, it's like a sudden, this feels right. And it's a split second. It could be 100th of a second, but it's this feels right. What I'm doing feels right. I'm in the moment. I have a split second of joy right now. Those carry so much weight. And then I feel like I'm really tapping into my soul's purpose at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, none of us know, you know, and so turning back to religion makes sense. At least it gives some solid answers. It's structured. It's a path. I think this mystical process is extremely ungrounding. And, you know, we're human, like we want an answer. And science can be really satisfying because it tries really hard to say, we know what truth is, even though every few years they change their mind radically. What quantum physics is doing, somebody debunked time and space as truth. Like, it keeps shifting. And the discomfort with the unknown, the level to which we really don't know why we're here. What is the collective purpose of being alive? We're floating on a blue ball in space. Why? Is it random? Is it just that we're just dropped here? Is it one religion versus another religion just has the right answer? I just feel that we don't know, and it's extremely uncomfortable. It's just extremely uncomfortable to think that I'm living, that I have this sense of me, and yet I don't know myself. Carl Jung says it's the privilege of a lifetime to find out who we really are, and it's true, and we're not going to get there. And I find myself at times thinking, oh wow, I'm deep in all of it, and I think this might be an answer, and it's like, nope, nope, we're not going to know. And living in the unknown is just so uncomfortable. The fears that come up and the frustration. I struggle with it too. And I've faced various moments of wanting to quit and almost did a couple of times. What is the meaning of it all? And why are we doing all of this? And is it true that these are lessons? Is it true that we have a soul plan? These are theories that other people before us came up with. All of the religions were from a person, and then those got structured into, what we see as an entire ecosystem or decades, centuries. Where's the truth in all of it? I don't know, yeah.
I think being a human is an extraordinary gift. And I think, or I just know, having all the emotions, being able to have all the senses and feel all the emotions, from the most debilitating to the most, exhilarating. I think that's something that's really looked upon from others out there. Other beings look at us as being, there's something special that we get to do that we get to experience all those emotions. With all that comes this constant, I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't know what I'm doing. But those moments when it gels together and it comes together, like I just know on this podcast, when it comes together, or just the fact that I get to talk to you. And if I just picked up the phone and said, hey, Laura, tell me about the Akashic Record, and you didn't know who I was and I didn't have this platform, you probably wouldn't have the time to do that. How lucky am I that I get to do this?
Wow.
I feel it's so expansive, not just for me, but for you and for everybody who's listening or viewing this. I really honor the fact that I'm human, and I think it can, and I've been in places because I can travel deep and I can go into the ethers very easily where I'm not grounded. I am not grounded to this earth, and I feel really comfortable floating, kind of particles just floating in the universe. But I'm human. I'm here to experience this. And so I constantly need to ground. I have my feet on a grounding pad right now. I'm constantly grounding myself, but I do honor being human. And curiosity is everything about being human. I think that if you're not curious, then what's the point? So I'm curious about some examples of when you went into the record of certain people, and even your mind was completely blown away. And I'm sure there's so many, it might be hard to narrow one or two down, but can you think of one or two that would be interesting?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's so varied, right? I think the cathartic, truths and seeing the person dropped into that space is so consistent, and that is what is most profound. Is you open your eyes and you look at the person and they're just speechless, tears, and they can't even talk. So it's really beautiful. But yeah, very tangibly, there's a handful of stories. I mean, record readings can be very practical. Like I said, the metaphors can relate to the person's life, literally and metaphorically. And then they can be extremely etheric. So, on a practical level, there was this lady I was reading, and I don't know, I guess her mind was replaying tapes, right? It was just, she was that kind of person who was just looping and looping. And, um, you know, in life, you can't usually say to somebody like, oh, you're just, looping in your own head, like annoyingly, endlessly. So the guides had this cutesy way to say it, and they said, it looks like what you need to heal is in your mind. And I said, just imagine like an old eight track tape player, right? Those old ones, and it's in a basement, in a desk, in a drawer, and you get it out and you play those old tapes on that old, you know, uh, player, right? Some things are just better left in the past, right? This old piece of equipment, this old tape. So go back to the basement, put it in the drawer, in the desk you found it in, and forget about it. So they were saying, like, for your own mind, like, there's these things that are old, played out tapes, very succinctly using that metaphor, and very then more loving to hear, like, imagine it in that way. You'd want to put it away, forget about it, right? Like, same with the things that you're looping on. And she looks at me and she's like, just staring at me. And I'm like, what? And she goes, yesterday, I found that exact tape player in the basement, in a desk, in a drawer. I took it out. I showed my kid and I thought, why do I even have this? And I went back to the basement. I put it back in the drawer, in the desk. And I was like, well, I need to get rid of it, right? There's no point to it. And I was like, holy shit, right? So something like that can happen where it's just mind blowing. And it happens all the time, all the time. I mean, there was another guy who I adore, and he's from Texas, he's a dude. And um, he was like, I want to meet a new woman. And I said, I saw this barbecue sauce in my head. And I said, for you, what you're looking for is like barbecue sauce. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to be slayed, like women's rights. Like, how can I equate women to barbecue sauce? But they said, it's like, barbecue has like sweet and sour, or tangy, and right, it has 2 words, 3 words. I said, you just want sweet and sexy. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I love barbecue sauce. It's my favorite thing. And I'm like, what is happening? But it's like literally how he needed to hear it, and the simplicity of what he was looking for, because he was starting to feel like he was never going to meet the person that he wanted, and they equated it to barbecue. I mean, you're just like, what the hell is happening? But then it can be very, 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 very like otherworldly. So there was this man I was reading, and I saw a corridor, and it was a white light corridor, like clouds in the sky, all white. And it went on forever. And there was this little tiny chair. And it was like a folding chair. And he was sitting in this white light corridor that goes endlessly, with this feeling of clouds everywhere, just so beautiful. Like if you could cut a pathway in the middle of clouds, like imagine it that way. And I saw this little folding chair, and he's sitting on it, like far away, right? And he just looks super chill in this really bizarre corridor. And on one side was one door, and on the other side was endless doors. And I said, oh, you're contemplating the infinite to the finite, and you're sitting there with the idea of the infinite to the singular. And you're not sure how you feel about it yet. That's why you're chill in this chair, but that's what your soul's working out. He's like, yep, that's exactly true. Right. So, yeah, like as a reader, I get to see this beautiful metaphor of the infinite to the finite. I get to have these glorious, like, moments where the 8-track tape player, or the barbecue sauce, where it just rings so true, and it's like, this guy loves barbecue and this woman just had that, this man's contemplating it, and then there's these little philosophical lessons baked into it. So I get to learn with them, right? Because they're learning something and I get to listen.
Yes, you're expanding at the same time,
Yeah.
which is incredibly beautiful. The gentleman from Texas, um, did he meet somebody, or can people go into the Akashic record with you and say, I just really want to meet a great guy? Because I have somebody going through that right now. I really want to meet a great guy. Oh, can the Akashic record kind of bring that forward?
So it's great for, well, first of all, the question has a lot to do with the answer. Sort of like
Yeah.
ChatGPT or walking up to Google. If you say to Google, like, just talk, it's like, that's not going to go that well. I mean, it, you can say to your guides, like, just, what is the guidance for me for my highest good to hear today? Something like that can be very generic. As far as like something like I want to meet somebody. It's not exactly how it works. So it's more, um, what's in the way of me meeting somebody?
Mm.
Is there something to heal? I'm with someone. So say somebody's like, I'm not sure about this marriage. Have we learned what we need to? Where are we in that process? Is there any benefits to staying? Are there benefits to leaving? But you have to be very careful because you can get what feels like a complete answer, but the guides won't poke you and say, wait, but ask this too. So say you ask, what are the benefits of staying? But you don't ask, what are the reasons I should leave? So you hear all these great reasons for why you should stay, and they'll tell you all about that. But they might have more compelling reasons to leave. Now they won't say which one to do. They'll just show you both paths. One will feel heavier. I will argue till the day I die, those heavy paths are not fun in real life. Like when they show one of those and then you check in with the person, they're like, that was horrible, because they're not going to say it's bad or hard or whatever. They'll say, well, this path feels heavier, harder. It'll come through as darker, but not dark bad, just that's how it appears. The other path feels lighter and freer, but maybe the darker one is where you're going to learn something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, it's like so important to keep your authority around bringing in guidance and then recognizing there's a reason that we're not 24 hours, 7 days a week hooked up to it. We need to still make decisions and we can't get it wrong, even if we didn't listen to our guides. So yeah.
Do you ever, if somebody asks a certain question, do you ever say, well, would you like to know, in that example, should I stay in this marriage? Would you ever suggest, should we ask, should I leave this marriage? Would you suggest that, or does it have to come from the person themselves that you're reading?
No, we talk about the question because things like should won't work. You can't say should because that means there's a right or a wrong. And so time is complicated. So we have to reframe them. So one of the things I teach in the classes is around like questions, how to ask them, how to think about them. You mentioned curiosity. I mean, letting curiosity be a driving factor. So say we're doing a reading and you get all this information from your guides, I'll pause and say, where do you want to go from here? What part of that spoke as true? It's like a Wikipedia page. You can just start hyperlinking and go down 80 rabbit holes. I could spend 10 hours reading your records and not come close to finishing anything. So it's insights. It's like, we all get stuck in life where we're not sure. Sometimes it's super validating. Sometimes it gives you little insights. It's like reading a book or getting a podcast or talking to a friend. It's another way to get a perspective that hopefully will resonate as truth for you to take another step in your path.
I think learning how to ask the right questions is important in every single aspect of our life, whether you're in spirituality or whatever it is, everyday life. Learning to ask the right question and to pose it the right way. And it's true in tarot also. It's important. The question you ask has to be, it's best not to say, should I, should also, I had a guest who said should is like a pornographic word. She said it's one of the worst words you can say because it's very judgmental. But it's best not to ask yes and no questions in tarot. You need to kind of expand on that.
That's right.
So the question, just learning how to ask the right questions is a great tool in life, in your work, in your relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, most of us live our life trying to get life right and not getting it wrong and seeking the approvals of the people around us and, hoping that we stay safe. So it's a pretty narrow experience for many of us. So like opening up that rubric and thinking about life outside of, I think, the perils of just the mind, right? The mind is very organized around getting life correct and not incorrect and not dying, right? It doesn't want us to die. And it's a great tool for that. I mean, it's fantastic. It's like, I'm appreciative, but it's the system's in overdrive. And there's a lot more information in a lot of places.
One of the brain's greatest fears is the unknown. So it's better to keep you on a very safe path, doing the same thing every day, going, getting your coffee, doing this, doing that. Why would you go take a different turn? Because it's the unknown. We don't know, but it's where the unknown is, where the excitement often comes in, and it's not as scary as we think it is. It's like facing the tiger in the eyes, and you go, wait a minute, this tiger has beautiful eyes. This is not as scary as I thought. So when you got into the Akashic Record, how did it change you dramatically in your life trajectory, which I think you've already answered, but is there something in getting you in your life's purpose, and was there something that brought some peace of mind to you?
Yeah. I mean, what brought peace of mind to me? Getting into this really changed me. I mean, when I left my job and I was thinking about authenticity, when I finished that chapter, the next word I heard was two words, love and self-love. And I was like, what does that even mean? And this body of work has all been around, what are we ultimately in terms of like, when I say I have this soul and I say I have this physical body, and like what is the experience of being love itself and being the endlessness of life itself? And so it was a massive shift in perspective. I think what it's afforded me is, I mean, it's so many things. I think very simply, I love philosophy. It's an endless amount of information. I like to talk about this. If you have lunch with me or grab a coffee, this is all I'm talking about. When I was a kid, my friends were like, Laura, the philosopher is going to be broke on the street corners. Like, we all need a fund to help her because she's going to have no money. And like, and this is just who I am. So it's an opportunity to talk about it. And people seemingly like the way that I frame it. And I get to do this for my career, and it's endless. I mean, the information out there in this realm it's endless. I wrote the 3 books, The Nature of Love, Self-Love, and Boundaries, that are for publication, but actually there's 12. And I just keep writing them and getting more information. But it's not been easy. For me, it's been, every time I get to a place where I feel like I'm getting that stable state of, okay, things are clicking a little, I've got a little confidence, I can breathe again. It just is like another ass kicking around the next corner of, wait, no, there's a whole nother area that you're going to learn about that's going to, require you to release another understanding of who you are. So I'm not suggesting it's true for everybody. I think we're all on our different paths. The guides talk about purpose this one way, that purpose is being in truth in every moment, right? That's it. Like, there's no end game for a lifetime that's meaningful in a deep way. It's like just in every moment that you're connected to what's true, and you can listen to that and take action from it. And that we have this collective purpose of all of us getting to a place of knowing we are love itself, and not just in our minds, but in our embodied wisdom is how I think about it, right? Like it's that known truth, right? Not intellectual truth. And so for me, it's been this journey into that, and it's pushed me into so many, corners, and it's like, I don't know. I keep thinking, okay, like it's the worst thing to say out loud, but I'm like, okay, I think I'm getting to a place where there's like breathing room, and then
Yeah.
no, now we're going to talk about dark energy, and I'm like, oh no, no. It's a new challenge, but it's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's an interesting lens to see life through. But I'm not going to mislead people. It's not for the faint of heart. I think once you open up Pandora's box and go down this path, it's very hard to reverse back out. I hear you saying people are trying to quit. I tried a couple times. It's just not been successful. Yeah.
I really get it. And I say that a lot on here, that we have this rosy picture of, oh, when I break through this, I'm going to break through this fear. I'm going to break through that. It's just, oh, it's going to be so good. Finally, I've reached the top of the mountain. But then there's another mountain. There's always another mountain. But the wonderful part about it, Laura, is if we have to traverse the next mountain, for at least for me, I don't get debilitated. I take a deep breath and I go, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. But I don't, like back in the days when I was very, very anxious, many years ago, I mean, everything became huge, like a huge mountain to climb. Now, I always get obstacles, but I go, okay, bring it on. I can see, I can get through it. I can get through it. That's the difference. And that's the beauty, because we're always going to be challenged.
That's
And I
right.
think that's what our life is. We're just here to really be challenged, but it comes down to love, and it comes down to vibrating at a high frequency. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think um we're alive, and part of being alive is there's challenges. We're all going to die. There's that, right? There's like day-to-day challenges. There's these global challenges. There's the politics. There's all these things. But I think this process, um, it, how do I say this? It's like the knowing that I'm not this single thing called Laura, and that there is this endless version of me simultaneously, that I can toggle
Mhm.
back and forth between the expression of the endless energy of me and the physical embodiment in this time space moment that's organized into this thing that you're looking at and you point to and say, there's Laura. I'm both. And some days I'll just get really caught up in the story of Laura and I get frustrated and I'm just like, and then and a lot of times I just, and it's just the pace to which I can remind myself that there's this whole other ecosystem of the endless nature of me that's just sitting there hanging totally fine, doesn't really care, knows that I don't die and that I've never was born in the first place. And so that is what I find really has been the benefit of this process is I don't fear my death on any level. I don't worry about things past a point because I, I don't really think about this time, space, location as the only version of myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I relate to that 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. My gosh, Laura, this flew by. I have some questions to ask you. Can I ask those to you? And
Sure.
then, oh my goodness. Okay. What is your number one go-to strategy to relieve mental distress?
Number one. I have so many. I guess I can only say that there's two. Meditation is massive. I love meditation. I think it's a great way. But going in the Akashic record does instantly resolve stress. It's such a beautiful energy and it just calms me pretty quickly.
And you teach people how to do that. So if they're interested, they can contact you and learn how to do that. What's one of the best pieces of advice you've received in life, personally or professionally?
It's another big question.
Mhm.
I mean, the big piece of advice, I think the idea of um, the comfort with uncertainty from Tony Robbins. I got into him for just a year or two, but it really stuck with me, this idea of your ability to manage the discomfort of in uncertainty shifts the quality of your life experiences because you won't stop because it's just uncomfortable. And I think that's something that I'm really organized to. If it's yes, but fearful, I'm doing it.
Got it. Got it. What does a successful life look like to you?
Yeah, I mean, that's what the whole first body of work was organized around: success and authenticity on your own terms. And so for me, I love these topics and I love to grow and evolve my understanding of myself in the world. And so success to me, I mean, monetarily, I like a certain amount of human comforts. I'm a Taurus and I definitely can enjoy like creature habits. And then after that, yeah, just being able to do what I love and expanding and evolving, which I'm very fortunate that I've got that in my life.
It's beautiful. Last is a sentence. In the past, I was, and now I am.
That's some good questions. In the past, I was committed to a life plan with outcomes and some level of certainty that you would get somewhere and arrive somewhere. And at this point, I am free of that. Just evolving and living and letting things unfold.
It's beautiful. Now you're getting involved in a couple new projects. Do you want to share those?
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I took a huge pause this spring and just thought about what's true again. And I love the technique and I love the fact that we've had thousands and thousands of students globally join us at the school and learn how to access the records. But now that that's all situated, I am expanding into what does it mean? Why are we here? What is the collective purpose? I'm launching another podcast very soon where I'm going to talk to spiritual teachers and healers and also do my own episodes on those topics. What have we all learned? Why are we here? What is the meaning? Knowing that we won't know.
A simple little podcast.
Simple little podcast. And yeah, just workshops and retreats. I just want to get out. I just have this burning need to be with people in community, off Zoom. Sometimes I like Zoom, but so I'm going to be doing workshops around the country and hopefully get to Europe and different spots where we have students and yeah, just to have a more in-person community time.
There's nothing like in person. There just isn't anything like it. And where can people find you?
Yeah, littlesoul.school is where we run on the classes, and lauracoe.com is my website. So either one of those.
And we put all that in the show notes so people will have all that information, all your links. They'll know how to find you. Laura, thank you so much. I just was so excited about this interview and learning more about the Akashic Record. And I just had chills through most of this interview. I just want you to know. So thank you so much for being on Fear Unzipped.
Oh, thank you. This was a wonderful conversation. I appreciate it deeply.
Thank you, Laura. Take care. Send you lots and lots of love. And until next time,
Thank
more
you.
later.